There you go.
There we go. Hi, everyone. You are watching Simply SCAdian, no title required. I'm Zoph, joined by my fabulous co-host, Lucas. And
Hi,
Lucas is going
everybody.
to take it away while I do tech girl stuff.
Welcome, everybody, to Simply SCAdian, no title required. As always, we are coming to you on Zoom and later on YouTube to bring you the voice of the unhallowed hero of the SCA, our peerless brothers and sisters. We really do appreciate everybody who's worked for their peerage, but we really do believe that a lot of us who haven't achieved that level yet have some just really valuable information, some great things to say, and we wanted to give them a forum and a showcase to just kind of ply their trade and give their knowledge. So, as always, Simply SCAdian will continue to bring you those people. And so, first, before we get to our guest, once again, I'll remind you that we are on Facebook. On Facebook, there is a form you can fill out. If you know somebody who we should talk to, or if you're somebody that we should talk to, let us know. The more people that you send us, the more this show will continue and the more we can showcase those people throughout the known world that really, really should be heard. We want from everywhere too. Again, Zoph and I are EK and mid-realmers, and as a result, we get a lot from in there, but we want to spread it to the known world. So if you can think of somebody, let us know. Like today's guest. Okay, today we'd like to welcome to the show Friderich Grimme. First encountered the SCA at the ripe old age of 3 at the Cloisters Renaissance Fair, which we're going to talk about later. It was not until many years later that Friedrich again encountered the SCA in college and began playing in the Shire of Nithgard, then the Principality of Ethelmark. After a move, he continued playing in the Crown province of Usgard until the present day. Friedrich's main areas of interest are 14th and 15th century European cuisine and cooking, and we're really looking forward to talking about that today, with a focus on the foods of German and Italian lands and archery. So, welcome to the show, Friedrich.
Hello.
Welcome.
How else are you gonna get the food unless you shoot it? So
Right,
you know.
right.
Oh, you pay other people to bring you the ingredients.
Not a
so,
hunter then. Okay.
so Lucas gave us a little bit in your bio of an introduction of how you found the SCA, but tell us really how did you find the SCA?
Okay, so literally, it was at age 3. I was a little little kid, and my parents had taken me to the Cloisters, which is in northern tip of Manhattan. For anybody who doesn't know what it is, the Cloisters is the Metropolitan Museum of Art's dedicated wing to medieval art and architecture. And basically, I may be wrong a little bit on the history, but it was basically, I forget whether it was post World War I or post World War II, but one of the major magnates of industry bought a whole chunk of land at the northern tip of Manhattan and then went and bought bombed out pieces of bombed out and ruined architecture, or got them shipped over to New York and put them together in a building. So it's a medieval style but modern building with actual bits of medieval architecture thrown in it, plus gardens. It's absolutely lovely. It is transportive going there. It is truly wonderful. It is one of my favorite places in the whole world, and I've been going there since, yes, I was 3. So anyways, my parents had taken me. They were doing they were doing their medieval festival, and there was this group of people who, I mean, to me it was like, wow, they're knights, they have swords. It was, I remember specifically, one of the fighters at that point for leg armor was wearing baseball catcher's guards. Orange comes to mind, but it was a long time ago. I may be off on the color. I remember there was apparently a bridge there, and and they would go and like one person would say, "Let us cross the bridge." They would say no, and then they'd hit each other and they'd fall off the bridge. And they were smacking each other with sticks and doing all the things that heavy weapons fighters do and having a grand old time on it. And me up there was like, wow, that's awesome. So, and then we didn't go back for a couple of years, and then they stopped doing the fair for a number of years. And then life happened, and I moved along and happily went through life with a huge interest in medieval history. Like, had that before I encountered the SCA. The SCA was not the first encounter. There's a copy of the Boys King Arthur sitting on my bookshelf, which I have literally had. I think my parents got it for me when I was 2. And that's been there. They stuck a bow in my hand at 4, and I'm terrible at archery, but I still enjoy it. So that's where I first encountered the SCA. And then when I went to college in Nithgard, which is central Pennsylvania, at Penn State, basically the Shire had practice on the student union lawn, which was right outside my dorm room. So I sort of watched it for 2 years and was like, oh, that's interesting. I really don't want to get hit or hit people. That's not my thing. But, I'm interested in medieval stuff. Maybe I should check them out. I checked them out, went to a couple of meetings, promptly got sick with a major illness, disappeared for a year. And then in the last semester of my senior year, I had a friend who was part of the local nerdy gaming community, was also part of the SCA, and she went and threw her one of her boyfriend's tunics on me and dragged me to an SCA event. And it was the coronation of Edmund, and I don't remember his lady's name. And that was back when it was the Principality of Ethelmark. And then I went to one more event in Nithgard, and then college ended. I moved back here, and 6 months later, I found the local SCA group, and that's been it.
Wow.
So go ahead.
That's my story.
Okay. No, we usually trade off asking questions. I was being nice, but I'm going to take over the rest of the interview. Fine, Lucas, be like that.
Go.
So cooking, how did you get into the cooking aspect?
Cooking aspect. Okay, so I love you can't see it from here, but I'm a big guy. I like my food, and I was always sort of interested. I was basically, when I got into the SCA, about the one thing I knew is I didn't want to do heavy weapons combat. And so it was a lot of floundering around. Like archery at that point in the group I was in, that was the easy pickup. There was an archery practice here. Here's a bow. Here's your cedar arrows. Go shoot stuff. And the cooking, what happened is I tried a little of it on my own, and it didn't work well because I didn't know how to cook. Like, I was single. I knew how to make toast and scrambled eggs, and I could heat a bowl of soup. I did not know how to make rice in those days. And so basically what happened is it always stuck in the back of my mind. And then I was at an event. I don't remember if you remember Poison Pen Press, Endeavor the bookseller.
Yes.
Okay. So she's we miss her so dearly. But I was looking through, and there was a book called The Medieval Kitchen. If you want me to, I can give you the full list of books. I was like, you know what? It's been a while since I've tried cooking, and this archery thing is fun, but I'm not really that great at it. Maybe I should try something else. And well, I mean, it's also increasingly hard to get archery events, and I always ended up in the kitchen helping other people cook. So it was like, let me try this out. And that was the book that sort of cracked the code for me, because it was providing a English translation of, well, they would provide the original recipe, English translation of the recipe, their redaction of the recipe, and an explanation of why they made the choices they made. And that was the thing that I needed to sort of crack the code and start doing my own redactions and looking at things and getting brave enough to like go and mess stuff up. And I've been doing it ever since.
So you use the term redactions.
Yes.
Can you explain for our non-cookie people what a redaction is?
So a redaction is here. Let me grab something that just happens to be that literally just happens to be sitting on my desk. So this is a translation, not mine. I don't speak German, from the Rheinfränkisch Cookbook, which is roughly 1450. The translation is by a gentleman, Volker Bach, who I am blanking on his name in the SCA, but he has been doing amazing work, actually like getting German manuscripts translated into English, because while I'm trying to learn German, I'm really slow and I just started. So I'm pretty much stuck with translations. So let me pull. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I was literally, I was looking for a sauce to go with something that I was cooking for dinner. And I was flipping through and we found this. Take vinegar, wine, and honey and gingerbread, pfefferbrot, literally pepper bread, but and pound it together, pass it through, he says a cloth, but that was actually, excuse me, missing, and make it thin and season it and boil it up. Serve it as cold as you wish and take, i.e. serve fish or meat or venison boiled or roasted with it. And I remember what this was is it was for Easter dinner and my wife was like, I want a leg of lamb. Okay, we're gonna have a leg of lamb. And that was ended up being the sauce for the leg of lamb. And it's like, okay, there's not a whole lot there. Vinegar, wine, honey, and gingerbread. And by the way, we did not have period gingerbread. So I faked it. But it turned out good. And basically taking that and turning that into something that is essentially a modern recipe that you could hand to somebody in a kitchen. It's like, okay, go make this and it will produce something of reasonably the same consistency every time.
So 1 cup of
yeah,
whatever, 1 cup of this, half a cup of that, tablespoon
Yeah.
of this. Got it. Okay.
Yes, yeah. I think it worked out to be a tablespoon of red wine, a tablespoon of honey, half a teaspoon. We didn't have gingerbread, so basically I grabbed some rye bread, which was a slice of rye bread, pull off the crust, rip the whole thing off, toss that in. That's a thickener. And it's like, what goes in gingerbread? Well, ginger, obviously, and we're going to toss some pepper in there. I think it was a teaspoon of vinegar, of a red wine vinegar. It turned out nice. I mean,
that's what I was going to ask. How was it?
It turned out good. And it was basically put it all together, press it through a sieve. This says pass it through a cloth. There's pretty much in every medieval sauce recipe, almost every one, you will get some instruction, press it through a sieve, pass it through a cloth. Basically what you're doing is you're taking, when you put the bread into the liquid, it will sort of, you let it sit there for a while, it sort of puffs up and sort of gels down, but it doesn't really look like sauce. It looks like liquid with lumps in it. You can mix it. It will still look like liquid with lumps in it. You take something, you can do cheesecloth. I use a modern metal strainer and I literally take the stuff, pour it in, take a spoon and you're literally pushing the bread through to get it ultra fine. Yes, there's this glop on the bottom of the strainer. It's absolutely wonderful stuff. That's your thickener. That's golden. You scrape that off. You toss a little bit in. And then this one is, my wife bought me these cute little like baking things that say La Cousette. It's like it's clay, but you know, it looks like a Dutch oven. Toss that in for like 5 minutes into the oven, get it heated, boil it up, pull the thing out. We overcooked it a little, toss a little more wine and vinegar to loosen up the sauce a little. And that was sauce with dinner. So that's a redaction.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So
as you can tell, I get excited about this stuff.
This is awesome.
Yeah. So it says in your bio that you focus primarily on German and Italian.
Yes.
Medievally speaking, period speaking, are they close to one another? They seem like they would be polar opposites as far as
okay. So I'm also very much a 14th century person. You've got a fair number of manuscripts from the Italian tradition, which are in they're guessing about when they are. It's either late 14th century or earlier mid 15th century. And when you get to the German tradition, I'm just beginning to discover that because so many of them are in German and the notes are in German. And so you're going through, can't read, Mittelalter Dutch, you know, and then where's the thing that's a number, and do I recognize how to say the number in German? Now that I'm finally getting some more translations, a lot of the sources that were translated are much later. They're late 15th or 16th century. And when you look, at least from my experience, I will not say I'm an expert or a master or anything at this, but from my experience, you are having a change in the way that the books are written. You're seeing, and so that 16th century German tradition may not, in fact, be the late 14th or 15th century German tradition. So I don't have a parallel to say. There are definitely some things that borrow. One of the things I've gotten into is like looking at sauce recipes, because if you look at the French sources, at the Anglo-Norman, aka English sources, and at the Italian sources, you have a lot of overlaps of types of sauces. Like that is, there's a lot of people talk about a universal medieval cuisine. No, it's not universal. There's clearly regional variation, there's differences in ingredients, but a lot of the manuscripts are things that are being copied or transmitted around, and so you do see a lot of commonalities. You see,
I would imagine
yeah.
I would imagine the proteins are pretty standard.
Oh, it's like to the sauces. Like one of the classes I do, and I'd have to pull up notes because my brain's a sieve, one in one end at the other. But there's a whole, and this is nothing new. It's just I tell people about it in the SCA. A lot of it was written by, oh God, like 70s or 80s by academician Terence Scully, and Constant Hayes, who was also an academic, may she rest in peace, who did a lot of the bringing the English sources into publication for people, but commenting on the fact that if you go through and look at the French sources and the English sources, and then you go look at the Italian sources, you're going to see the same sauce names. You know, okay, you're going to see some type of garlic sauce. And yeah, okay, we're taking garlic, we're going to take some type of acid like vinegar or verjuice or agresto, we're going to put it in, maybe we'll put in some spices, we'll grind it up, salt, it's there, it's a garlic sauce. And it's going to appear in all three countries in various things. The sauce that I, for some reason, fixated on was cameline sauces. And yeah, there's like every single manuscript, there's tons of cameline sauces. Get to the German tradition, not so much. And that's something that I'm actually working on reevaluating my opinions on, because that sauce I just described to you, it's not a cameline. Cameline is basically well, there's tons of variation, but the common things are cinnamon, wine, vinegar, or verjuice, which is, do you know what verjuice is? Okay, verjuice is early pressed grape juice. So basically what they're doing is they're taking the grapes that they would use for wine before they're fully ripe and pressing them down. It is quite the thing this day. Verjuice, I would say, in the last 5 or 6 years, used to be almost impossible to get it. You had to get it from like Middle Eastern markets, and they would call it sour grape juice. If you go and now, like the New York, especially, I mean, you're both near New York State, like New York State wineries, there are places that are routinely bottling verjuice. It's all the fruity thing. I will miss it when it ceases to be the fruity thing, because I'll still want it when it's no longer the current 21st century culinary trend in salad dressings, but you can get it. And it has a flavor that is unique to its own. It's a mild sourness. You know, if you can get a bottle of it and you want to do something amazing, if you're making something like chard or spinach that you're boiling in this board, take and toss 2 tablespoons of verjuice into the water that you're boiling it, and there will be this subtle change of flavor. And you'll be like, oh, that's good. I didn't know this could be that good. So, and that was also actually what?
I'm writing it down so I can look it up.
I forget where that's on, but that is, I want to say it was one of the Italian manuscripts. I forget. It's like, as I said, in one ear, out the other. And it was just showed up as a practice, and I did it for an event. I was like, ooh, that's good. And then I had leftover verjuice, so I did it at home. It's like, ooh, that's still good. So where was it? Oh, camelines. So basically, and there's tons of addition there. They will add other spices. Sometimes they will add fruits in. Fundamentally, what you get is something that sometimes they add sugar, sometimes not, sometimes they boil it, sometimes they don't. Then you get the garlic camelines, which oftentimes don't have cinnamon and seem to be for certain as like a fish sauce. Um, but anyways, you get into the German countries, and in German language, there's one manuscript tradition that has a cameline sauce in it I know of. I may be wrong. It's not called a cameline sauce. The translation is roughly a sauce for lords. But it is believed that this lineage of manuscripts, and this was by the person who translated, obviously they did their academic research. I didn't do this. I'm just repeating what I've read. But it's something that they believe goes back to an Anglo-Norman source that was, it's like, well, we want a fancy cooking manuscript because, having a fancy cooking manuscript, our library is prestigious. So, well, here's this one, and it's, in some type of French. Let's translate it. And this one's translated into Low German, one of the Scandinavian languages. I think there's a high, and it made its way around. So it made its way around through the libraries, but you don't have a lot of things. But then I'm thinking back, there's a couple of sauces like the one I just read you. Okay, so it's not calling itself a cameline. It doesn't say it has cinnamon in it, but it's got warm spices through the gingerbread. Oh, and bread thickener is the other thing that's common for the camelines. It's got the wine and vinegar. It's being served with roast meat. If it's not a cameline, it's filling the same place as that in the tradition. So I don't know if there's a connection. It feels like there might be a connection. This is something I need to go piling through manuscripts and try and find every German manuscript I can get my hands on. Is there a sauce recipe like this? How many are there? What's the connection? What are they called? When do they disappear?
So, have you done a lot of feasts?
A bunch, yes. Yes, I think I have been a head cook at not necessarily not big feasts. There's a site in our local group that folds about 45 people, and it has a wonderful little kitchen. And there was a while where I was just doing, day board and feast at every event. So I've done, I want to say 8, something like that.
That's impressive. So, what is it like? How do you take these incredible recipes that we've been talking about and translate them into a meal for 45 people?
Okay, for 45 people or 200. So I have done one feast where it was about, I want to say 100, 120. I haven't gotten larger than that. So basically, it's a process. And if anybody has ever said, I want to cook a feast, listen up and feel free. Do you accept questions in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Do we
yeah.
actually have people listening? Because I don't know.
Yeah, there's people
Right
watching.
now, nobody's spoken up in the chat, but if somebody does something, I'll usually,
So, so prepping to do a feast, you want lead time. Basically, things that I find help me, not required, are you go and get your event runner to give you a theme or something to work with. Or this is what I do. Then what I do is I think, okay, what's the time period? What are the manuscript sources I have? And I start going and digging in the manuscript sources, and I sort of have a list of things that I want to fill as far as food needs. So because of modern budget, almost guaranteed, the cheapest meat on the table is chicken, despite the fact that in Europe, in period, chicken was one of the high-priced meats, or was considered, that's probably going to go on the table because you need to feed people protein. You're going to want to have some type of vegetable dish. You're going to want to have some type of starch, which is not bread, because we have a large number of people who are either by need or by preference have gone gluten-free. So back when I started, it was, oh, you need a starch. Well, put bread on the table. Nope, you're going to have to find something else.
I will eat everybody else's bread. I'm just saying right now, I will take that hit for the team. Bring
No
me
problem.
the bread. Bring it unto Zoph. Okay, go ahead.
I completely understand and appreciate it. My tummy doesn't let me do that anymore.
Ah,
I can
all right,
do it, but I have to do major moderation.
right. Okay, go ahead, son.
So basically what you're doing is you're thinking, and then you want to create a variety of dishes. The other thing, if you're doing a feast, you had multiple courses. If you look at period recipes, I haven't found a whole lot. I mean, there's the ones in Menagier, there's the ones in Scapi, which is like over 100 years difference and completely different regions. And if you go in, there are various places you'll see, they talk about the first course, the second course, the third course. Way I think of a course is very much going to be a meal. I'm going to be giving you some appetizers, a main protein, a starch, some type of significant vegetable. And if I can make the starch make the vegans happy, as well as the significant vegetable make the vegans happy, I will do that. And then there is going to be something that falls into the sweet, and that is going to be a full meal. And then what you do, and I'm really bad at this because I always put too much food on the table, is you cut your portion sizes down to like a third of what you would expect, because you're going to be doing this 2 or 3 times. Mm-hmm. And then you do the whole thing again. And it's this very long, sometimes stressful. Unfortunately for me, I often put it off more than I should, but it is this joyful experience of going into your kitchen and making a mess and serving your food to your significant other and seeing what they say and seeing if your taste buds are working the same as their taste buds. And then, so that's, whoa, hold on just a moment. Give me a second.
All right, well, we're paused here for Friderich. Don't forget, we have a form to nominate somebody to be a guest on our show. It's on our Facebook page. Please, 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 you can always ping us, send us a message on our Simply SCAdian page. Or you can send us friend requests and we'll get back to you. All right, yay.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Had to deal with something.
Okay. That's fine.
When the wife calls, you listen.
You are, yes, and such a wonderful wife you have. So I don't blame you.
I know.
For
I'm lucky.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yes. Besides, it's the fundamentals of household. Most important person in the house, the cat.
Yes.
Then comes your wife.
Then your wife.
Then maybe the dog, if you have one.
Nice. All right. So we were talking about making feasts.
Okay. So that experimentation process, and that's fun. It's something I like to do. Periodically I'll have this burst of energy and I'll just go do experimentation for its own sake. So what you do is you get a whole bunch of ideas for recipes and things you've tried out, and you do want to test them. Don't try and do a redaction and test it on the day of the event. Bad things. Yeah, right. It is too easy for something bad to happen. And I've known people who have tried and it's like, maybe we don't want to serve that. Wow. So then what you're going to need to do is you need to go figure out what your ingredients are. So what you do is when you plan your recipes, I plan them for what I refer to as a service of 4, because most of the places you will get tables that are like 4 people or 8 people. So how much do I need to serve 4 people? Figure out the amounts. Then it's going to your autocrat and saying, what size feast are you going to cook for? Do you want me to cook for? And get them to commit to a date that they will give you a firm number. And that number is not going to be a number of people. It is going to be a number of tables. Because if you have, a table of 3 people, servers are not going to be going and picking out servings for 3 people. They're going to be bringing family style meals. So if there's 3 people at a table, there's 10 people at a table, they're essentially getting the same amount of food. I have not cooked a feast in the COVID era, so things may have morphed. So once you've done that, you're then basically scaling everything up. How much of stuff do I need? And then you're going and pricing everything out to see if you can get this to fit in your budget. Then when it doesn't fit in your budget, you're pulling things back, making substitutions, and getting it to fit in your budget.
You know I'm thinking of the Feast song by Ken and Lisa Theriot
It's
right
one of
now.
my it is one of my favorites. If for some reason that I am ever so lucky that they actually are at a feast that I cook and they actually like the food, which I know are two very unlikely things to happen, the kitchen will come out and request that song be played.
Nice. It's a great song. Okay.
It's a wonderful song.
All right, Lucas has a question. All right,
Yes.
Lucas.
So,
Okay.
so in addition to doing the feast, you kind of, in one of your explanations, you said something about classes. So you teach as well.
Yeah.
And
Well,
how often have you done that, and where?
So teaching is very, very, very sporadic. Up until, and the culinary teaching is something that I've only just started to put my toe into, because it's kind of like, I feel like there's a lot of people who I'm working from their instruction or their inspiration, and so it's kind of like, if I'm bringing a class in, I want it to be something that's sort of new. So it's like, it's like, yes, people have taught me how to organize a feast. I have a way of doing it. I don't teach a class in doing that because there are so many people who teach a class in doing that. So the classes that I've been teaching, I teach the cameline sauce, which is here, look, I looked at every cameline recipe I can find, put it on the spreadsheet and looked for the commonalities. This is what I discovered. This is what a cameline sauce is. This is the variation we have. And then we give 3 or 4 of them. At the end of the class, I usually do it as a, let me make a cameline sauce for you. And if it's in person, we would dunk food in it and see what it tastes like. So that's something I've done online. I did it for local online, like biweekly Scola. And I actually did it at the online Known World Cooks and Bards, because it was a Known World Cooks and Bards that I could actually get to, because I don't have to travel there.
Right.
So I've
go ahead.
Okay, I've been trying. I teach a class on sort of common medieval sauces, and I've sort of tweaked a version of that, which is a class that I'm hoping to teach live, which I have gotten to teach this. It was pretty cool. It was, again, Known World Cooks and Bards, referred to as Messing Up with Courage, and it's basically getting people to do their first redaction. And it's basically, I've picked a bunch of sauce recipes where there's a chance are that you have it sitting in your kitchen. It was great fun. I got on, there were like 3 people, and they were like, so this is a practical recipe, so please go to your kitchen. I don't want to go. No. This will be the most boring class, because I have literally 15 minutes of suggestions. And really what this class is about is you going into your kitchen, picking one of these recipes, getting out the ingredients you have and trying it out and doing a redaction for yourself and writing stuff down. And it was cool because we had, like, it wasn't a lot of people, but it was 3 or 4 people in their kitchens on Zoom, and they would periodically come back. So what's it supposed to do like this? Well, try it, see what happens. Well, that didn't quite work. So what could you do to fix it? Write down the changes you made. And it was a practicum in doing redaction, because everybody's afraid to do redactions. Redactions is experimentation. You go in, if you have a modern recipe that you think sort of sounds similar, try it. If not, start with a base amount, give a few suggestions like, hey, we're doing a sauce. Okay, don't start with more than like a half a cup of your main liquid. If it's vinegar, like, do less, and then like add things in quarter teaspoons or pinches and see what happens, and just bring it up, because this is what you're doing. And then write stuff down. Yeah, keep a log, because don't worry, you're gonna mess this up. This is why it's called Messing Up with Courage. And then you're gonna fix it, and then you're gonna be like, oh, that's so cool. And if you wrote it down, you'll be able to do it again. If you didn't write it down, you're gonna have to go through the whole mess up process again, which is fun in itself. But
so if someone wants to learn to get into this, can you give us just like 2 or 3 websites or books for people to start?
Yes. So let me see if I can pull something up online. So website, medievalcookery.com. I hope They don't. This is, let's see if I can share my screen. Oh, I can't
Oh,
share my screen.
hold on. Hold on. This is
You
becoming.
need permission from.
There. You have now permission to share your screen.
Awesome. Okay. So this website is the best. I worship at the feet of the people who've put this together. Medieval Cookery, medievalcookery.com is an amazing website. For people just starting out, it has a ton of recipes. While they do give their own redaction, they are also giving original language with translations. So you can see what the heck was going on, that they produced it, and you can go and start making your own choices.
Nice.
Okay. Okay. Even better, they have recommendations for books.
Oh, great.
Okay. Now, this is extensive. So I want to see if the book and it's basically everything. It includes some stuff that's out of print. Unfortunately, a bunch of the foundational texts for English are out of print, so they can get a little pricey. There's something else I was looking home. It's
Wow, statistics even? That is
oh
so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. This is
Oh, there we go. Online medieval cookbooks.
yep. This is pick your
Wow.
region. I'll do Germany because I spend a lot of time here. And these are the resources on the web. And as you can see, a lot of them, the English, Deutsch, 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 which, doesn't do me well. I'm getting better. I'm starting to work on learning German. So I will be able to use those in hopefully about a year's time. But
I did a candied orange peels from the cookbook of Sabrina.
Sabine Velserin? Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
That was the one time I've ever done anything medieval cooking wise.
Yes.
Very cool.
That is a great cookbook to start from. It's just like I said, I'm like I want to do 14th century, and it's significant later. So like there's been a change in cooking traditions from there's the medieval cooking tradition, and then there's sort of the Renaissance and into early modern style cookbooks. The way the cookbooks are written changes, amount of detail in the recipes, what's in there has also, you'll see subtle shifts over time.
I'm
So
just
I'm sort of,
surprised they don't have more countries though. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
oh, hold on. They have tons. I mean, and again, they're looking primarily from a European perspective. There is,
Gotcha.
in addition to this, if anybody's interested in medieval, I am not the person to ask for Middle Eastern cooking. But there's a lot of other sources about that. Master Karyadok's website probably has all. Well, he has a couple of translations that he did or commissioned, but also there's been other stuff that has been added and is available. There is a lot there. The fact of the matter is the Islamic scholarship in our time period was superior to European scholarship for many, many hundreds of years. And the fact that they actually, wrote things, they were writing down new works instead of just copying other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there is somebody who is going to kill me for that, because that is a vast oversimplification and completely changes by the 14th. But from the cooking thing, you have this, there's a few things here and a few things there, and then you hit the second half of the 14th century and there's this blossoming. Post-plague, there's a blossoming, and it gets, as time, and then, my God, especially in Germany, you get the printing press, and they're like, hey, what can we write down on paper and print and sell? Because books are cool.
I imagine too that the recipes changed almost completely once trade really opens up, and it's not these insular kind of just adaptations of a recipe. Okay, we don't have that, so we're going to use this instead.
Oh,
once
yeah.
it becomes available, I guess everything kind of changes.
There's a whole bunch of, I'm looking for a book. That's why I'm scrolling. Sorry for all the people who are probably, I should probably stop sharing while I scroll this. There we go. Um, I'm looking for a specific. Oh, there it is. Okay. So let me, you were asking about another book to get started. So yes, I have read what's called another recommendation. Okay. This was Odile and Redon, The Medieval Kitchen Recipes from France and Italy. This was the book that cracked the code for me. Oh, and it just disappeared. Okay, let's see if it is. It had gone out of print temporarily, and then it's come back. You can still get it used. But like, yeah, this, if you were doing Europe, if you are just starting out and you want a physical book that you can hold, this is a great place to start.
Okay.
I know a lot of people have the older one, which a lot of people have, is Plain Delete, and I did not find that successful. That was the one I tried a couple of recipes and it was kind of like meh. This, they got a couple of food historians and a professional chef together. And so these recipes work like clockwork. So you're not when you're first starting off, or when I was first starting off, you to build your confidence, you want some things that's like, okay, here now I know I can cook something complex.
Mm-hmm.
This will give you the redactions to do that, and it will give you the source material to be able to go back and see, and the explanations of here's why we built this recipe redaction this way. And you can say, is this a faithful, reasonable redaction? Or you can say, I would have done it differently. Let me try something else, which is just fine because it's just somebody, all a redaction is some one person's interpretation of a recipe.
Right.
So
Huh. All right. So let's dive into archery.
archery, okay. So
So
I shoot badly, very badly these days.
But you enjoy it.
Oh, tons of fun, tons of fun.
And you said that started actually with your family.
Oh yeah, yeah. That started with when I was a little kid. Um, my parents had uh, gotten owned very briefly a property that had been an old farm in like Western New York. I think they picked it up on like, I don't know the story of how my dad got it, but it was one of those things where he was up there, he went to it, it was on auction for some reason, and he somehow ended up as the high bidder. And so what they found in the barn, because they're barns, they have stuff in them, found a whole bunch of old bows. And so there was one that was a little child's youth bow. I do not have it anymore. I don't know what happened to it. Had it for years. And that was literally like throw some regular string on it and you get back in those days, you could go to the local, Woolworths or Calder or whatever your regional was, and they would have these boxes and boxes of arrows. They were the little youth arrows, and they were, made of wood because, this was the day when lawn darts were considered safe and good fun for the family. And so the idea of giving a 3 or 4-year-old a sharp, pointy object and a mechanism to hurl that object, far enough and fast enough that it will stick into a 2-inch piece of plywood seemed like a good idea. And so I, shot for a while, and, it was on and off, because we were mostly doing like apartment living, because the house didn't last that long. Obviously there wasn't space. So it was always something that I've come back and forth. I think my biggest challenge with archery I've always been in or around the city, and trying to, between work and responsibilities and distance, trying to actually get to some place where you can go, your best archers, they're literally going out practicing 2-3 times a week. And I was like, wow, I can get out once to go to the range this month. There was a very brief period where I was going for like, a couple of days, where I was able to go like once a week for a couple of months. And then I was okay. I wasn't great. I was okay. And then I hurt my back. And so the bow poundage weight has dropped, and that affects your shooting. And so what I should be doing and what I want to be doing is switching over to shooting with a crossbow. And the issue that we have is in New York State. New York State is there is a slowly changing sort of anti-crossbow sentiment. It was like bow hunting is fine, but you want to use a bow. It can be a compound bow. It can have, a ton of things, but as soon as you put a stock on it, that's bad. Rifle hunting is fine. Crossbow sort of in the middle is not. And there's some very legitimate concerns about it. The big difference between a bow and a crossbow is a bow, if I put the bow down, even if there's an arrow on the string, chances are it's not going flying. And it's really easy to take the arrow off the string. If you put a crossbow down, whether it's a medieval replica or a modern crossbow, and there is a thing, you now have a loaded weapon that can go off on its own. And people treat it with the safety level of a bow, and it's not. That's a major, major, major difference. So I'm in an area where trying to find a range that will let you, it's populated enough that there isn't vacant land where you can go to things on your own and stay far enough away from properties to be able to do it on private property. But it is unfortunately also an area where we don't have a lot of public ranges which will allow you to actually use or practice with a crossbow. So it's sort of a catch-22.
Come to Ohio, darling. We have lots of land.
Yes. Well, if you go north, there's lots of land,
Right.
but when the geography just between where I work, where I live, and where I'd have to go, we're talking about 80 miles. So, going and doing after work practice when you're having to go, 80 miles one way or 60 miles one way and 20 miles back to get home, it's not realistic. And then you really don't want to bring bows or crossbows into the city and leave them sitting around in your car. That's just asking for trouble.
You know what? So I can't believe this, but we're almost out of time.
You got me on a talkie night.
I know we have so much more to talk about. So we're gonna because we were gonna talk about the cloisters, but we literally do not have time. So Zophid mission, I've never been. So
Okay,
I've been
you
to
have
the
to
Met
fix that.
though. I've been to the
Okay.
Met, but I never have been able to go up north to the cloisters. So
Okay.
one day.
Well, we were saying our 6 degrees of separation is one of the companies I work for, Period Productions, works with New York Ren Fair, and I've hosted the Joust show there for many years, going back 10, 15 years. We've been there doing chess matches, doing live fight demos and stuff at my Ren Fair. So we might have crossed paths at some
entirely
point.
Possible. If you're still doing that, for people know, the medieval fair is coming back. There's actually it's still the Renaissance Fair at Fort Tryon Park, which is the park where the cloisters is actually contained. It's been on hiatus, obviously. Yeah. It is run by, I want to say it's not the Inwood Development Corp.
But it's the freeholders are part runners.
No. It's the we'll if people want, we can post it later. But what happened is they've got a new organizer for the fair, who is somebody who is involved with one of the, I forget which one, but one of the steel fighting companies that's been doing basically the spinoffs from the Battle of the Nations push. And so the fair is coming back. They are looking for vendors. They are looking for artisan vendors. I know the SCA is planning to come back. They're in the process of building and working that up. So if you have never gone, it is 100% free. Parking is terrible. Don't plan on literally Uber. Plan on parking somewhere else in the city, getting on the subway or a bus and going up to Fort Tryon Park. But entry is 100% free, and the SCA will be there. Has been there for many years. I
Since you
used
were
to do it
3 at
regularly.
least.
Yeah. What?
Since you
So,
were
well,
3
there
at
was, yeah,
least.
there was a break. There was, I mean, back then they actually had the children's activities inside the Cloisters Museum. They had left this open courtyard that they now use as a parking lot, and you were up on the parapets building. It was fun. Well, that's more because I know we're running short of time. I'm looking at
Right.
the time here.
Okay.
It's like,
Okay.
but
So the medieval fair is coming back
yes,
to the Cloisters, and that's
yes.
this summer, correct?
I
Or
No,
believe
is it
it's
in
it's
the
usually the
fall?
October.
fall,
Yeah,
October, like early. It's late
Okay.
September, early
early
October. I don't
October.
know the
Okay.
exact date, but yeah,
And so,
come
and
on out, support
it's
it.
a one day. It's a 1 day
Yes,
fair.
it's a one
Wow.
day. It's a Sunday, I believe. It's normally a Sunday.
All
I'd
right.
say for me, that's my biggest house. I mean, the jousting arena seats, I'm going to say somewhere in like the 2000,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
big,
yeah.
and that place is mobbed.
Oh
So,
yeah. It's insane. And come back and drop by the SCA. The SCA is if you come in by the main entrance, there's like the big field off to the left. It's always there. They're always in the same place. So
Nice.
and if
All
you
right.
see
so
Robin Hood,
anyways,
say hi.
Okay. Last question. What can the SCA do better?
okay. So I've thought about it. I have lots of answers. There's lots of things the SCA can do better. This is the one that's like on my mind. I just thought of it today. I at least in my local group and in the SC East Kingdom, we desperately need to work really, really hard to go and recruit our next generation of SCAdians. I just sat when I was looking for a picture because I don't keep pictures of myself, so I was hunting for a picture of myself. A bunch of the pictures I found were from 2017, and the people who sort of are the newest people in our local group were actually new then, and they are millennials, and they're in their 30s, and they're starting to settle. And we've got now that call them Zoomers or Gen Z or whatever, that group hasn't joined at least our local area of the SCA. And considering that they're worried about the graying of the SCA, that's the thing we need. We need to develop that next generation. We have more competition than ever. The LARPing communities are doing amazing things, both in Europe and here in America. HEMA has gotten larger. We also have the Battle of the Nation style, live steel fighting has gotten larger. There's a lot more people in our space, and we're all getting older. And our activity is a lot of fun, and it's one of the nice things about it is it's a big tent. Fundamentally, whatever you may say about the SCA, chances are there is a place that almost everybody can find a place to be happy in our group. And so, yeah, I think it's the perennial thing, but I think looking at it now, that's really our big thing. We need more people,
Agreed.
and
Do
we
you,
need
do
more
you,
young people, like college age 20s.
do you have any suggestions as to how to recruitment wise, or
I don't have great suggestions yet, unfortunately. You wouldn't think it from all the talking I've done, but I am fundamentally a shy person who doesn't like to get out and do things in public.
And I think that's part of the problem with us in the SCA is a lot of us are socially awkward introverts. Believe it or not, I am very shy. So for me, the thought of going out and being like a chatelaine it fills me with dread. When I meet new people in the SCA, I say hi, I welcome them, I try to be warm and nice. But then when I have to have a conversation with them, I'm like, "Rrr, arr, me
Yeah.
zof, me do theater. Like I don't know what to say."
So I think some of the stuff that I've seen people doing, and that's some of the most powerful things to do, is taking things like our practices and bringing them out more in public. Like hopefully, COVID is going to die down enough that I can start running archery practices again. And one of the things I'm going to do is we're most likely going to be practicing on a public range. I'm going to make sure that we got some flyers, some cards, have stuff that people can go to that's in public safe spaces where they can come and try out the SCA and meet people without going into a home. doing more stuff outside. And then also start doing things like maybe start actually putting stuff on community calendars. The SCA has always been very much in this closed space of like, well, we're all very shy people and we're always afraid that new people are going to like laugh at us and, think funny things of us. And times have changed, cosplay is huge.
Right.
LARPing is large enough that it went on as a subplot on a Marvel show on Disney Plus. Okay. People, Dungeons and Dragons, we don't do Dungeons and Dragons. We're doing history, but we're adjacent to it. And
Right.
it's having a renaissance like it's never had before. People are going to be a lot more accepting of what we do and our particular little island on if the archipelago of weird, to make a reference.
I love it.
But and yeah, just getting out and letting people know that, hey, we're here, we're fun. Yes, we have a long history, but no, we're not stodgy. We're not going to count the stitches on your clothing. And the people of us who get really excited about stuff like piling through manuscripts, if that's not your thing, that's cool. If it is your thing, come on over. We'll share what we're doing.
Right.
And if it's not your thing, but something else is, we'll find the person who shares that interest with you, because the SCA is a beautiful big tent.
Yes. Amen. All right.
Love it. Thank you.
Our guest in 2 weeks is going to be Colette Davignon, who she's from the East Kingdom, and I can't wait to talk to her. She sounds like an awesome person. She's Audrey's dependent, the new seneschal, kingdom seneschal of the East Kingdom, her dependent. So it's going to be great to talk to Colette. Thank you so much, Friedrich. This has been so wonderful to talk to you. I'm so glad we finally got you on the show.
Great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. You've been watching Simply SCAdian, no title required.